I'm here with Lee from Weiss Construction. Hey, Lee.
Hey, Shawn, how's it going?
I'm great, thank you. And we're going to talk about a project today that you've got going on, and you've had it going on for a while now. Tell us a little bit about what you bought and what you created.
A while back, this was a medical office that we converted to 22 apartments. This is going back to probably 2022. So project's finished, it's fully tenanted. We fully exited with CMHC. We're collecting rent. So I want to say we're probably close to a year into it being fully tenanted, and things are running pretty smooth. So obviously this is a project that we brought passive investor, and we had some other partners in as well, and we had contracts drafted up and agreements and so forth.
So it's 22 apartments, that's awesome, and you fully stabilize your financing with CMHC insured financing.
Correct.
Through the MLI Select program?
So we did the MLI Select program. We hit all 100 points with the, we did the energy efficiency. We removed all the gas. We put solar in the property. Everything's on heat pumps. The windows are thermal as well. So everything met all the energy efficiency. So we met the 100 points, and we also got the 50-year amortization.
I tell you, you hear a lot of people talk about the possibility of 100 points, but it is so rare to actually pull off 100 points and get the full spread. I think that's a really great job, and it just goes to show that you kind of know what you're talking about at Weiss Construction.
A little bit. So when you're doing like a rehab building, you're taking something that's old and you're trying to retrofit it to, 5, 7, 10, 25 apartments. To get those 100 points, it's really, really hard because updating what's there with trying to keep 90% of the existing, you'll almost never achieve that. Very hard to achieve that. This building, even though it was an existing building, it was considered substantial construction. So everything inside was 100% new. Everything on the roof was 100% new. So because everything's new, we have to make everything to code compliant. New code, which means you're going to meet all the energy efficiencies.
So you're almost forced into it, which I guess is probably very good. So when you acquired the property, how did you acquire it? Through a corporation, a limited partnership? What was your legal structure?
So legally, when we acquired the property, I purchased it under my own corporation, which held it until we did all the due diligence. Then we brought an investor in, and then we formed a new corporation that we brought the investor and other partners in. So it's, I guess, a limited partnership.
That is the correct basis. You never want to own any commercial, multifamily, or a project with a big construction budget personally, because there's just simply far too much risk, from finance risk to construction risk to market risk to 1 in a 100-year pandemic risk.
Right, exactly. So knowing all of this going, not my first project, but doing this and then getting all the legal advice of how to set it up. So a new corporation was set up, everybody came onto the new corporation. Now I know there's other ways to set it up with different holdcos and so on, but this is kind of what we did through proper JV agreements and how it worked out for us.
The JV, or the shareholders agreement, in that scenario is critical because, as we know, every single real estate project ever done has not gone 100% according to plan. And I'll bet you this one didn't either.
No, come on, we're perfect. What do you mean it didn't go 100%?
So tell us, Lee, tell us about a challenge you had on this project.
Oh man, so lots of challenges, and you're right, no, it did not go as planned for many, many reasons. So we bought it in 2022 at the height of the market. Not that we overpaid for it. I think we got a good project, and I think we paid a fair price for it. The numbers at the end of the project did work out because the numbers were conservative going into it. But the market dropping, we also had the lender decided to pull out as well. So I won't mention the lender's name, but halfway through the project, they decided they weren't funding multifamily anymore. So now we had to bring a private lender in. Through JV partners and investors, we had to raise our own capital through our own personal finances to keep the project going. And you can imagine how heated those conversations must have been.
Surprise.
Right?
We don't fund multifamily, or I don't think I've ever heard a lender change their lending criteria to that extent mid-project.
Not only did they tell us they were not funding multifamily anymore, they actually never gave us any construction draws So as you know, when you're starting one of these big projects, typically you kickstart the construction with your own funds. And then they come and they do an audit, or they do an appraisal, or they come and verify that the work's completed before they release the next tranche of funds. They never did.
Well, that's like pretty unlucky. But it sounds like you battled through, which is really what real estate investing is, especially these days. It's, how do you keep going when things happen? And it sounds like not only did you not keep going, but you're thriving now that you got through to completion and stabilization through CMHC.
So we got through. We got the place rented out, fully rented out. It was a challenge to get it rented out because the markets did drop. But all in all, at the end, we hit the numbers. We did great at the end. So no complaints. We obviously went longer than thought of because we had to bring a new lender in, construction issues and so forth, changes with the building and whatnot. We had several break-ins. We had several fires. We had our whole entire mechanical equipment, about $200,000 worth of mechanical equipment stolen from the roof. So lots of challenges. Anyways, going forward with working in the not most desirable areas, we now have learned that we have to better secure these. And not to say we did it, we actually had 24-hour security guards on site. And the one guy fell asleep in his car when all this equipment got stolen.
Wow. Yeah, it just goes to show you can never be too careful. So you mentioned you had investors and JV agreements. How did those agreements sort of come into play as the project started to hit some speed bumps?
So we had everything. It's obviously having agreements before you start a project are way better than trying to set up agreements during a project and after a project. I haven't been too successful with doing things during and or after because they almost never get done, or they don't get done too friendly. So before we started, before we even bought, we had everything set up on paper through JV agreements and so forth, which for the most part, again, things happen. We're not unreasonable people. People that we get into business with, they're not unreasonable, and everybody's stuck to their responsibilities and fiduciary duties.
Well, I tell you, you've hit on gold there, because trying to get an agreement done mid-project is almost impossible. For so many reasons. It's also better for everybody to have it done in advance. For the money people, for the active people. The money people want to make money, and they like your deal. So you never have more leverage than at the start of the project. And simultaneously, the money people never have more leverage than at the start of the project, because you need their money. And so if everyone just forces each other to get a deal done and get ink to paper or DocuSign to paper in advance, then the money can flow easily. And just like you said, no one's unreasonable. Everyone's trying to get something done and build wealth in some fashion. But it does set a set of guidelines or standards for how we're going to conduct business and what we're going to do if things go wrong, which is what a properly drafted JV or shareholders agreement does. So it sounds like you had a pretty good setup, and it ultimately led, or at least contributed to, your success.
I think that for making these mistakes in some of my earlier smaller projects that luckily have worked out without having agreements or trying to get agreements afterwards, they could have been horrible. They could have gone really, really wrong. So getting into something that's millions and millions of dollars, I wanted to make sure the paperwork was done as best as possible. Now again, having JV agreements, there's always things that are going to pop out. It's like, oh shit, we didn't think about that. Next time we'll add that in. But again, you're working with people that are reasonable. Otherwise, why would you get into business with them, right? But having the paperwork almost forces everybody, which I find, to communicate. Because if you don't have paperwork, you don't have JV agreements, which is really keeping people true to their words financially for their commitments, okay, both on the passive and the active side of things, they almost don't have to have a conversation. If you have the paperwork, they have to have the conversation.
That's right, because there's a consequence for not.
And they know this.
That's right. There's a consequence for not holding up your end of a contract, and that's a lawsuit. Now, no one wants to have a lawsuit, but it's there. The threat is there. And even though it's not really a threat, it still exists. And so that's why it is so much better to get it done in advance, because when the problems happen, you're kind of all forced to get in a room or get in a Zoom room and hammer out a deal or figure something out, right? Get to a reasonable resolution if it's a capital call, if it's a go raise another mortgage, that sort of thing. So, well, it sounds like you've managed a very large project, got it to the end, and got some success. That's awesome. And, it's hard. It is hard work. So, way to go. Lee, thank you so much for joining me today and telling us about your project on Barton.
Thanks, Shawn. Appreciate it, and look forward to working with you in the future.
All right, Lee. Well, I'm Shawn from Rook and Knight Law. This has been Rook and Knight Weiss chatting with you about real estate.